Jack Reacher 2 director explains why Tom Cruise's sequel flopped. It's kind of funny seeing how Lee Child's Jack Reacher stories are succeeding on Amazon Prime Video, because when Hollywood took a shot at adapting the stories, they crashed and burned after only one winning feature. The streaming series Reacher is currently in production on Reacher Season 3, with viewers praising the approach to the material and the casting of Alan Ritchson in the lead role. So what went wrong with the movies, which had Tom Cruise in the lead and should have worked better than they did? If you ask Ed Zwick, the director of Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, he'll tell you that he was the problem. Ed Zwick has written a terrific book about his film career called Hits, Flops, and Other Illusions. It's a terrific tell all about some major movies we grew up on. And eventually, Zwick gets to his contribution to the Jack Reacher film series. Zwick took over for Christopher McQuarrie, who actually turned Jack Reacher into a formidable adaptation of the Lee Child book One Shot. And when opening up about the experience in the book, Zwick revealed, the Jack Reacher series started behind the 8 ball because die-hard fans of the novels instantly thought Tom Cruise was wrong to play the part. Reacher, as we can now see in Alan Ritchson, is meant to be a 6'5" giant, a mountain of a man who deals with problems as bluntly, intensely, and physically as possible. Cruise is ideal for Ethan Hunt. Yes, not Jack Reacher. Also, as Ed Zwick notes, there's no real room for nuance in the Reacher stories. He calls it red meat, but really fans of the stories just want hard-hitting action. This is why Alan Ritchson always looks like he has been through the ringer when he shares set visit photos or talks about the demanding physical nature of the part. Not that he's complaining much. Unless you talk to him about filming in Canada, then he might have some choice words. If you forget what Tom Cruise's Jack Reacher, Never Go Back looked like, revisit this trailer, and then go rewatch the first 2 seasons of Reacher on Amazon Prime Video while we wait for news on the eventual Reacher Season 3. We know that it's going to adapt the Lee Child book Persuader, and recently added Anthony Michael Hall in a key role. Grab a copy of the book if you are a fan. It's a banger. When Tom Cruise first stepped into the role of Jack Reacher in 2012, many were skeptical about whether the Hollywood star could live up to the towering figure created by author Lee Child. After all, Reacher in the novels is a hulking 6'5" force of nature, a nomadic investigator with a mind as sharp as his fists. Cruise, known for his charismatic but often smaller-framed action roles, had a lot to prove. Despite the casting controversy, the first Jack Reacher film, directed by Christopher McQuarrie, managed to win over a good portion of fans and critics alike. It wasn't perfect, but it was gritty, intense, and anchored by Cruise's undeniable star power. However, when the sequel, Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, hit theaters in 2016, the response was lukewarm at best. Directed by Edward Zwick, this follow-up didn't have the same spark or excitement as the original. The action was still present, and Cruise brought his A-game as always, but something was missing. The film flopped commercially, grossing only $162 million worldwide against a production budget of $60 million, compared to the first film's $218 million. But what went wrong? Why did a sequel with the same iconic lead and a built-in fan base fail to resonate? Recently, Edward Zwick, the director of Never Go Back, opened up about the reasons behind the film's lackluster performance and the lessons learned from the experience. A clash of tones, Zwick's explanation in a candid interview, Zwick highlighted a fundamental issue with Never Go Back. It simply didn't know what kind of movie it wanted to be. The first Jack Reacher film had established a particular tone, part gritty detective story, part old-school action flick. McQuarrie had captured a sense of grounded realism and a slow burn intensity that worked well with Cruise's restrained yet relentless portrayal of Reacher. However, the sequel tried to shift the gears towards a more conventional Hollywood-style action thriller, which, according to Zwick, was a mistake. Zwick explained that while he had hoped to explore deeper emotional layers with Reacher, the studio and producers pushed for more high-octane action sequences and a faster pace. There was a tug-of-war between what kind of movie it was supposed to be, Zwick said. I wanted to focus more on Reacher's vulnerability, his past, and his relationships, particularly with Cobby Smulders' character. But the expectations were to deliver more spectacle. This push and pull left the movie in an awkward middle ground. It lacked the visceral intensity of the first film, but also didn't fully embrace the emotional depth Zwick wanted to bring out. The result was a film that felt uneven and ultimately failed to capture the distinct flavor of the Jack Reacher universe. The impact of source material. Another factor Zwick discussed was the choice of source material. Never Go Back is based on the 18th book in Lee Child's long-running Jack Reacher series. While it was a commercially successful novel, it wasn't necessarily the best choice for a film adaptation. The plot of Never Go Back is more straightforward and less complex than some of the earlier Reacher novels. It focuses heavily on Reacher being accused of a crime he didn't commit and the introduction of a possible daughter, which diverted attention from the traditional Reacher formula of solving a mystery through sharp intellect and brute force. Zwick noted that Never Go Back was not as action-packed or filled with intriguing puzzles as earlier books in the series, and that likely contributed to the film's difficulty in holding audience attention. The narrative didn't have the tension and stakes that were present in the first film. We needed a stronger mystery and more clever twists to keep viewers engaged, he said. This choice of source material also contributed to the film's pacing issues. The novel unfolds more like a drama, with much of the tension rooted in legal battles and Reacher's personal relationships, as opposed to the high-octane confrontations that audiences expect from a Tom Cruise action movie. The film adaptation tried to inject more action sequences to compensate, but they often felt shoehorned in, further diluting the movie's impact. The pressure of expectations and franchise fatigue. When the first Jack Reacher hit theaters, there was a freshness to the project. It was a new take on the action hero genre, with a protagonist who relied more on brains than brawn, despite his reputation for delivering brutal justice. But by the time Never Go Back rolled around in 2016, Cruise was already neck-deep in another successful franchise, Mission: Impossible, which continued to raise the bar for high-octane, stunt-heavy action films. This, according to Zwick, created an additional layer of pressure. People were expecting Mission: Impossible levels of excitement. Zwick commented, "That's hard to live up to, especially with a character like Reacher, who operates in a much more grounded, realistic space." Zwick admitted that there was an element of franchise fatigue at play as well. Audiences had grown accustomed to seeing Cruise perform increasingly daring stunts in films like Mission: Impossible, Rogue Nation 2015, where the actor famously clung to the side of an airplane during takeoff. By comparison, the stunts in Never Go Back felt tame and underwhelming. Cruise's commitment to doing his own stunts remained a draw, but the scale of action was simply not on par with what audiences had come to expect from a Cruise-led blockbuster. The film's action sequences weren't bad, Zwick clarified, but they didn't push the envelope in the way that people had come to expect from a Tom Cruise movie. That's something we probably should have considered more carefully. The uncomfortable chemistry and casting. One of the more polarizing aspects of Never Go Back was the casting of Cobie Smulders as Major Susan Turner, Reacher's potential love interest and fellow military officer. While Smulders is a capable actress and brought a tough, no-nonsense attitude to the role, Zwick acknowledged that the chemistry between her and Cruise didn't quite click on screen. Reacher's character, by design, is emotionally distant and somewhat detached, which makes creating believable romantic tension a challenge. We wanted to show a softer side of Reacher, but it's hard when the character is built to be so stoic.